Welcome to the Impact Multiplier CEO podcast. If you're a chief executive, or if you think like one, and you want to create exponentially greater impact, then this show is for you. My name is Richard Medcalf, founder of Xquadrant. I coach some of the most successful and impressive CEOs and executive teams on the planet and help them achieve extraordinary results. And no matter how successful you've been in the past, there's always a whole new level of impact available to you. So, if you're ready to play a bigger game than ever before, I invite you to join us and become an Impact Multiplier CEO. In this episode, I speak with Modestas Sudnius, who is the CEO of Eleving Group, an international FinTech company that Modestas joined when there were just 7 people, and he's now scaled it to over 100 million euros of yearly revenue, making them one of Europe's fastest growing companies as measured by the Financial Times. In this discussion, we get into understanding the purpose-driven reason behind Eleving's recent corporate rebranding. Does the rebranding really make a difference? Well, in this case, yes, and we'll find out why. We also look at really some of the structural decisions that they made in order to enter so many different markets in a very short space of time, and how they're actually designing social and environmental impact directly into their products rather than adding all that kind of social responsibility stuff on as an afterthought to their business. So sit back and enjoy this conversation with Modestas Sudnius. Hello, Modestas, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Richard. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm looking forward to this conversation. Modestas, when I reached out to you a few weeks ago, I knew that you were the CEO of Mogo Finance, one of Europe's fastest growing companies, according to the Financial Times list last year. And of course, now you are CEO of Eleving Group. So tell me about that. What's changed? I know it's really the same thing, or it's an evolution. So just tell me a bit about that before we jump into the details.
Sure. Actually, you hit the weird time in our company's history. So, essentially nothing has changed in the company. Main thing what has changed it's the name, and it's actually our corporate brand. We still have the same Mogo brands as a product brands, but essentially, it has changed pretty much overnight. But it was a process. It was a process of half a year, working with a team, working with consultants.
So is this just branding, just because you had a bit much money in the bank, and you felt you needed a bit of a corporate refresh, or is there something deeper going on? I mean, just always interested about when companies would change their name.
Yeah, to be honest, it's we didn't need to change the name. I think Mogo Finance is well recognized name, but it was more about the impact what we're making, and kind of it's more actually about internal messages what we want to achieve with a brand change. Because essentially, obviously, there's some technical elements to that. We have many different brands underneath Eleving Group, so that also have one brand as a dominant, that did not make it very convenient.
Right.
But essentially, the core part is still like our kind of admitting that we need to change slightly our the way how we look at things going forward. And I'm not talking really about kind of day-to-day business, but I'm more talking about shifting the company's focus from being always product focused to more impact focused. Now with a new brand, we're also launching our updated identity. We have a bunch of ESG initiatives what we want to integrate, but integrate in a structured way. And then kind of new brand with a new revised mission. It's really like a good start, good kick to all this next stage of company's development.
Right. Yeah. So you feel you're at that stage where you needed to have a cohesive mission across all the brands. That's what I'm hearing. Exactly. And you wanted to be clear. So what's the mission? What is this mission of this new group?
Yeah. So our mission essentially and it's, as I say, it's nothing new. It's just maybe kind of revised and then kind of all the small missions put into one. It's essentially lift up social mobility in the markets where we operate by providing people an access to financial instruments, and the only way how we can do it, and the only way we know how to do it, is through financial technology. So essentially, right, we're aiming to make people's lives better by giving them access to something they didn't have access before.
Yeah, I love that idea of social mobility, right? It's a great purpose, because if you talk about the pure, we want to make a profit, we want to return to investors or whatever, it's okay, but it doesn't get people out of bed. But actually, getting out of bed to help improve social mobility and give people access to finance when they need it and this kind of thing, that's exciting, right? That's inspiring, and you can get people to actually come behind that. So I think that's a good move.
And to be honest, I think you can do both. You can still make good profits,
Absolutely.
make good products, and at the same time have this impact. And I think now it's the best time to do it when COVID, anyways, it has affected many economies, and I think many people lost their jobs. So if we can contribute in kind of helping to overcome the effect of COVID, I think that's the most motivating thing what we can offer to our employees as well, to be a part of this journey.
Yes, absolutely. And as I like to say, finance is the fuel for impact, right? I mean, if you don't have an economic engine, it's very hard to create impact at scale, right? You just can't afford it. So you have to have a money-making machine to be able to do that. Well, let's jump in about you just for a couple of minutes. So Modestas, when you joined, I think probably about 8 years ago or so now, when you joined the business, I think you said there were 7 people, right? In Lithuania, that's where you were starting. And now you have I think you said it was 1,500 employees across 14 markets in the group, right? And you're the group CEO. So just tell me a little bit about that story. What were those changes? And as you've had to kind of take on more and more responsibility in this fast-growing business, how's your leadership had to change?
Sure. So I think exactly 8 years ago, I've joined Eleving Group. At that time, my challenge was, and I joined as a CEO of one country, of one operational unit. So at that time, really started with an Excel sheet and 7 employees, which is kind of big task for financial company.
Excel powers everything, it turns out, right? When you pull back the covers.
when you have a right attitude and right people in place, Excel doesn't scare away. Kind of, it's good tool to start with. And so essentially, I think it was a transformation of a company, and that was a transformation of myself as a leader, because I've also joined relatively early. I wasn't even 30. I was I think 26 years old when I joined the company. So I really grew up as a leader together with our company, together with our business, and in 8 years. I could say that I could maybe split this experience in kind of 3 parts. So firstly, I was developing the product because we're a pure startup. There was an idea that was a big part of society which doesn't get an access to financial instruments, and also that traditional banks they are not operating efficiently. So it was an idea, but exactly to build the product, kind of how it ended up, that was different to what we initially envisioned. So first it was really about building the product. Then when I've already became a regional CEO, it was more about building the team. So actually finding the individuals, building the teams who want to do the things the way I envision them, and who have the right ticks for our type of business. So that I think that have brought building the teams have brought me to the group CEO role eventually, in which I'm last 3 years. And like now I think now I'm actually what is my core focus, and that's also a big challenge for me in the future. But now I need to, if I start building the product, then we were building teams. Now we're building an organization, so an impact making organization. So that's a new challenge on my plate, very exciting challenge, and that's these 8 years have passed like that. So it's been really exciting journey.
Yeah, it's really interesting. As I speak to these different CEOs, I think a key theme that always comes out is that transition, right, from technical focus in some way to a people focus, right? I mean, an organizational focus obviously is necessary, but it's just so interesting because the world is full of people who are technically very good at what they do. But I'm just noticing that a common thread of high performing CEOs is that at some point they have really focused in on serving the people, to build the organization. And that's really interesting. And so when you talk about the difference between building the team to building the organization, what's different for you in that transition that you're going through right now?
Yeah, that's I think first of all, that's not an easy transition. That's I think personally that's a challenging transition because as a person I'm very analytical. I'm very passionate about data. So it that I can talk about our product for hours. For me, it's not alone. For me, it's it's interest rate, it's maturity, it's amount, it's surplus, and these type of things.
Yeah, you're a finance geek. I get it, right?
I'm a finance geek.
Yeah.
So, but what's exciting, I think, at these early days, that like you work with people as you are, like, so it's very easy to find a common language. But essentially, the team grows, when the dynamics change naturally. And I know, like, I guess the biggest learning for me, and I think I'm still learning in that, is really how to find a personal touch with your team. And obviously, I'm like our company is now huge. But essentially, it's still I need, like, my direct subordinates are kind of the ones with whom I need to build this really personal relationship.
Yes.
And I basically finding a platform, and then can be different platform for different persons. How to build a relationship outside business talks. Because if you do that, and I think I've been successful enough in accomplishing that, then you can address very complicated challenges, and you can solve big disagreements what you have in workplace. You can solve them kind of outside the workplace, and always get to a common sense of a person. And then maybe in the end you're not on the same page, but you have this personal relations which really helps you to kind of have a common understanding, and have a common goal, even though maybe the tools how you reach there are not exactly the same. So I think this finding a personal bond, and then kind of switching from product to actually caring about people and being genuinely interested what the people are about. I think that has been the key to success.
Yeah, and then I think when you go to that organizational level, I think what I often find is that the key is then you've got to help your team replicate that with their teams, right? So how do you create this leadership culture across the company? Because as you say, you've got this big organization, you can only deal with 8 people or something, right? And create the culture with them. But the organizational part is how do you actually help that ripple across the organization, right? Which is another skill from actually, as you said, getting a number of people around you who are ready to kind of work with your own personal mindset.
I think we're very well put. So, and it's again, it's tough. Like, you want other people, and you need other people to kind of speak your words, essentially. And we have a relatively complicated structure in our organization. So So as a leader, I'm really dependent on other leaders to have similar mindset, to have similar values. And here again, I think was no one secret element, but sharing the stories and kind of being able to communicate with people outside everyday business, and kind of being, I would say, even being vulnerable with them, like letting them understand like what I'm about. So this really helps them to understand to understand that, okay, it's not about some management style. It's all about the result and like where I'm coming from. And I think when they really understand where you're as a leader, as a CEO of a company, where you're coming from, then for them it's easier to kind of take that story and make it their own, or take those values and make their own.
Yeah, they need to buy into you before they buy into, what it is you're selling them, right? What is the vision or whatever it is.
Exactly.
So let's jump into this story of scaling, right? That's made you such a fast-growing company. What do you think you did really well as an organization that helped you scale so fast?
Yeah. I think few things what I'd like to mention. So one thing what we did right, and we did it right, but it's a long process to kind of making it work, is choosing the right structure. So essentially, if you look at our history, we've managed to open 10 markets in 2.5 years, which depends on an industry, but for a financial industry, it is very challenging, and you can rely on technology, but anyways, there's
a lot of regulation, there's a lot of national complexity. Yeah,
exactly. There was no similar market. All markets are different. The product is similar, but
especially when you get to Europe. I remember when I was very early in consulting, we did a presentation for some American investors, and the first slide of the presentation was like just a page of about 7 different electrical plugs, and the message of the slide was "Welcome to Europe." So everything's complicated. Yeah, everything's different.
But in like what made it even more complicated, that we're actually focused not on the Western Europe type of part. Like we're operating in quite exotic markets, you may say. We have a business in Uzbekistan, and at the same time we have business in Uganda. So very, very different mentalities, or I don't know, like in Caucasus, in Armenia. So really like a melting pot. So we need, like from early days, I think what we did really correct is to pick the right structure, how we will get there, and we've selected like we call it hub structure, but essentially that's a decentralized structure, and in a way it created an environment that we have companies within a companies. So essentially, that's quite a hard choice to make, to be honest, because on paper, first of all, it doesn't look as a cost efficient choice, because even like we went to an extreme that we've created even separate IT teams for different hubs, and each maybe they have something in common, obviously, but essentially we wanted that hub as an entity, it would have full ownership. It would have not only kind of structural ownership, but also legal ownership. So these are essentially separate legal entities. And of course, with that, were some benefits and were some risks. Obviously, that's way more risky way to grow, because essentially, if you have something working very well, you can't like if it's outside the structure in kind of a different legal entity, it's not that easy to kind of get all the know-how to the new entity, and essentially you need to build new teams. So you need to build and train new teams constantly. So that's not that's not an easy structure to kind of choose, but if you choose it and if you commit to that, and if you really find the right people, and if you really find the right balance, then essentially it gives you that you can kind of open multiple countries simultaneously.
These conversations are all about scaling yourself to scale your business. And one of the biggest barriers that stops us from doing that is getting stuck in operations and not spending time on the most valuable strategic work. So, I do recommend that you take our free executive productivity assessment. It's just 10 quick questions to find out exactly where you are on the journey to executive time management mastery. You'll then discover how you can free yourself up for more strategic activity. To take the assessment, head to xquadrant.com/go/productivity assessment with a hyphen between those two last words. Now, back to the conversation. Absolutely. I mean, I'm just thinking. So my mind's whirring as you're saying this because I've just done a number of these interviews for this season, and actually a couple from the previous season. And this decentralized structure has come up so much, right? So it's really fascinating. I mean, all in slightly different ways. Some grew them organically, some acquired in a very specific way. But I think this idea of giving people full ownership and responsibility and let them get on with things, perhaps at least at a certain phase in a company's growth, seems to be not just a recipe for high growth, but you talked about it being risky, but actually there's a sense of saying, well, if you've got a portfolio, then yeah, sure, you might not get the best practice scaled everywhere, but you might not get the worst practice scaled everywhere as well, right? So probably on balance, you're actually going to have a more predictable portfolio. Does that make sense? Is that your experience?
Definitely. I mean, risky from the point of view that, of course, you lose part of a control, but exactly as you mentioned, like at the same time, I'd rather lose money on operations while kind of learning, improving, while lose money on having big bureaucracy and then kind of being extremely inflexible. So that's one thing. I think another thing why more and more companies are choosing these type of structures is because of people. I think nowadays, I think younger generation, like they want to make an impact. They don't want to be just like a small part of a huge puzzle. Like they actually want to, with their hands, build something. And if you have a department of 200 people, then it is extremely difficult to do that, and like people don't feel that. And I think this impact making, it's very important. Like, so if you want to kind of, that's also the way how to get the top talent in your company.
Yeah.
So that helped us. That helped us a lot. And what if you get the right people, and if you find the right structure for them, and like with structure, I mean even how you motivate them. Like in our company, every single employee has a share option plan, which again, I think probably more common in Western Europe, slightly less common still in Baltics. Of course, that's evolving. But when this combined with authority, combined with autonomy, and then also if you would add like separate legal structure, it really gives give a team this sense of ownership.
Yes.
And I think that's something what extremely hard to achieve in kind of big organization, big corporation, a big, let's say, kind of bureaucratic organization with many layers.
Yes.
This way, like by choosing the right structure, we win, I think, way more than we lose in the long run.
Yeah, I love it. So what was something which was difficult? What was a challenge that you had, or a place where you struggled as the company grew, right? Because clearly it's never pure good, right? There's always complexity. It's a roller coaster. There's difficulties and challenges. What was perhaps one of the biggest learnings that you would want to share?
Of course, like that's like you need a book for that. But if I would have to mention something, what stuck with me the most, it's still I have to kind of go down to people challenge. Essentially, what is, I think, one of the biggest challenges that you need to multiply the teams if you want to multiply the regions, multiply the countries, and I guess everyone who's been growing very fast has faced that issue. Let's call it like it's really like an HR issue, finding the right people and the right individuals with the right mindset. So I would say, really my painful learnings has been making wrong decisions and in this hiring process. And if what I've learned, especially while hiring senior positions, and then even so senior positions in maybe exotic markets, as I call them, or like really developing markets, what's very important there is that you can't choose the best candidates out of the ones who have been presented. You have to choose the right candidate. And often you get this pressure of growth, pressure of even your HR department or outsource. You set a criteria, you get the candidates, you interview them, but essentially maybe the candidates, they have requirements what you need them, but they don't have values. They don't have the right mindset, which is very hard to put in a resume, but which you definitely can figure out in many rounds of interviews. And when the time pressure makes you choose the best candidate of what's presented to you, and that never worked out for me personally. Then you end up fixing, and you end up maybe not having a productive relations because to change person's attitude and to change person's value, I think it's close to impossible, especially if you talk about kind of top level CEOs. If you have not done it right from first time, then you're stuck in this cycle. So that has been really my key learning, and kind of what I've learned, that if you don't find the right fit, then you need to change the criteria. Maybe you need to lower down your criteria, because it's better to have less experience, but the right personality.
And how do you go about identifying that? So how do you discover that in an interview process or a few interviews? What are you really looking for at that point?
I think it was like, was many layers. So it's very, I think, these days was many methodologies. Like we're in our organization inspired by Who methodology of how to hire a person. So essentially you really go in many layers of his experience, like why he was hired for different positions and so on. And then so that's basically identifying the right characteristics of a person and the right skills, which I think is fairly technical and fairly easy. But what's more challenging is really identifying like values of a person and mindset. And for that, first of all, you need to meet the person. You need to have an outside of interview, let's say, interaction with a person. So I've been traveling across the world kind of almost every second week, just because I wanted really in person to meet the new candidates and have a chat, to really have a sense of feeling what kind of persons they are. And it was no secret structure, was no secret way, just like talking with a person, like trying to understand like what he or she is about. And that's like the only way I know is really through personal conversations, not necessarily about the career, but just about life. What a person's hobby, what drives him, is he a family person, and so on. So kind of outside work questions, let's call it this way, in unofficial environment. That's the best way how to really identify the kind of values of a person.
Got it. So what about going forward, Modestas? Your company's still on a fast growth trajectory. What's the next level for you as a leader, right? How are you going to need to shift gears to help the company continue to scale?
Yeah, that's something what I'm constantly thinking myself, and I think I've already mentioned to you that it's kind of, we're in this third phase of organization, and I'm in kind of third role in the organization, and I really see the need for our organization to be more impact focused, and myself as a leader to drive organization, because we have a bunch of super talented, smart people who are kind of product oriented, the data geeks, and essentially biggest challenge is for myself and for them to actually show that guys, like, it's more than the product. It's like, what about the impact what we're making in the organization. So to be a leader who changes, let's say, a little bit mindset in organization, that's definitely the big challenge, in which I would say it's not upcoming. It's already I'm in it.
You're in it.
Yeah. You need to feel your organization, and you can't kind of dose everything right up front. You need to do it in trenches, and what I'm really passionate about, and what's, I think, will be the biggest goal achieved, that these environmental, social, and governance initiatives, we really integrate them in our everyday business and products, actually, because I can give you an example from I think environmental environmental initiatives. It's very, I think, always easy to say that okay, now we're a green company, and I don't know, maybe we're a coal burning electricity kind of factory, but now we are also growing trees, and that's why we're carbon neutral, and things like that. And essentially we're financing used vehicles, so that's a big part of we are contributing to the pollution. But what I don't want our organization to become is to look for some excuses, or to spend money to become a better organization. And I think it will not work. Also, our people will not buy in. Like, no. I'm not believer in that. What I think is the goal of our organization is to really build in this impact in our products. So by slightly changing focus in how we build our products to contribute to society and to make this bigger impact. Now I can give you a few examples. So one can be like, if we get back to the same cars, essentially a car is a vehicle which takes you from A to B, and like, essentially, okay, how can we help? We can first of all encourage our societies to move to more electric vehicles, so we can have special programs on financing electric vehicles. Another thing what has worked very successfully is actually finding, because electric vehicle is still like, it is expensive. It's not that well, it's not that common yet, but essentially we're financing a lot of taxi drivers, for example, in Kenya, who are driving just cars. But what we understood, that actually the economy is driven not by car taxi business. It's driven by actually motorcycle taxi business. It's very common that that you're getting a lift from a motorcycle driver.
Right. Yeah.
So we shifted our focus in financing motorcycles. And really, at the same time, we're, I would say, shooting two rabbits with one bullet. Like, we're giving an opportunity for people to get a job while getting financing, first of all. And the second one, we're actually, like, we're financing motorcycles which are have very low carbon emission numbers.
Right.
And then at the same time, we really then shifted our car mentality in that market to motorcycles, because it is both a better business for us, but at the same time it is more sustainable and more impact making decisions. So this is really the mentality which I want to build in our organization, that our data crunchers, they would be thinking, okay, how to incorporate this element of impact making. What else can we do? And I think if we'll succeed, and I'm confident that we will succeed, then it will be very easy to get a buy-in in the organization and to shift this focus from product to impact. And that's essentially was one of the reasons why we did the whole rebranding exercise. It's really to kick off, to show people that that's important for us as an organization.
Hey, Modestas, this has been great. And I just love that passion that you have about impact, right? You know, it's the name of the podcast, right? Impact Multiplier CEO. So I think you're an Impact Multiplier CEO, because that's what you're trying to do, right? You're trying to get the whole company, which, you know, you've built a company that multiplies, right? You've built a company that has this hub approach. And now you really have that focus of shifting mindsets so that, as you said, you build structural shifts in the business to multiply your impact, right? Rather than just trying to greenwash, as we say, right? Just trying to make things look good on the surface. You're actually looking at how can structurally we build impact into the way we do our business, and so we generate that, impact in the world, impact in the business. All these things reinforce each other. So I think that's it's really inspiring. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you, Richard.
If people want to find out about you or about Eleving, where would they go?
The easiest way would be to go to our webpage, which is eleving.com.
Eleving.com, perfect. Okay, well, I certainly suggest if you're interested in seeing a very innovative and interesting fintech company, go and check them out. Well, Modestas, thank you so much. And I look forward to following the story as you continue to grow your impact. And thank you for sharing some of that journey today.
Thanks for inviting. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. Now let's talk about you. When you're in top leadership, when you're in the biggest role of your career, who supports you at a deep level as you lead others? Who helps you multiply your impact and get to the next level? If you're ready to learn more about our content, our coaching, and our community, then visit us at Xquadrant.com.